Good morning, bonjour. Thank you for starting your Saturday with us. And thanks to those of you viewing the recording after May 1st. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our early stage forum. Let's first recognize that we are connecting on unceded traditional Mi'kmaq territory and acknowledge that we are all treaty people. In the spirit of the philosophy, not about us without us, today's theme, Life Goes On Regardless of Dementia, was picked by people living with dementia. Today, we will explore resources that might be helpful as life goes on after a diagnosis. My name is Sasha Nadeau, and I'm delighted to be your MC this morning. I wear a few hats at the Alzheimer'S Society, including research, coordinating our referral program, but most importantly, talking to clients on our info line. This is our very first time hosting this event, not only virtually, but remotely. Today, we are coordinating from 9 households just to follow public health guidelines. And while this is a little tricky, we felt today was too important to cancel. It's more important than ever for us to stay connected. So all to say, please bear with me if my cues are less than subtle and if our transitions have any brief delays this morning. We, of course, wish we could be together in person, but that said, we're delighted to see so many of you connected across the province. As of this morning, we had over 200 people registered. Plus, there's the added bonus of not having to get out of your pajamas or find parking. So before we dive in, I'm just going to zoom through a few Zoom logistics and housekeeping items. This is what's called a Zoom webinar, which means you don't have to worry about turning off your mic or video. They're automatically off. You can communicate with us today through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll show you that in just a moment. If you wish to be anonymous today, you can rename yourself. We'll also be recording today's session for anyone who wasn't able to connect today, or hey, maybe you'll want to watch it again. So before you get to know our speakers, I'd like to get to know you. We're going to have a quick little poll. You're going to see it pop up on your screen. And there's 3 questions. Be sure to scroll to get the last third. And we'll just take a look at who's connecting this morning. You can consider this a practice because we'll have one at the end of the morning as well. So I'll just wait a quick moment as people answer to see who's online. Oh, fantastic. So a good mix across the province. Typically this event's in HRM, so it's really good to see people in other areas of the province. A lot of care partners, but even a few healthcare professionals joining us too. That's exciting. And a few safe watch parties, so I'm glad to hear that. Wonderful. So now let's get to the good stuff. We have a dynamic mix of speakers for you this morning. We're going to begin by hearing from my dear colleague, Calandra Canjora. She's a coordinator of client services here at the Alzheimer'S Society. She's going to tell us all about how today's planning committee came together, and she'll also touch on a few programs for people living with dementia. Following her talk, we'll be hearing from 3 women who will share firsthand experiences of participating in our programs and how they are living well with dementia. They include Sandra Britton on how supports help her to live well, Paula Snook on her newfound appreciation of art, accompanied by her niece Janine Momberquette, and then Faye Forbes on how she has found joy. Before we dive in, I just want to preface by saying these speakers learned new skills and virtually welcomed us in their homes to share their experiences with you. We might not have a fancy production studio, but we know their voices will bring a timely sense of hope and direction. If at any point, because of your Wi-Fi connection, the audio and video don't match up, we invite you to just close your eyes and enjoy the message. And just so you know, after each presentation, we'll give you a moment to reflect, send us any comments or questions you might have through the Q&A function on your screen. So you'll see here a little demo. If you click on your screen at the bottom, there's a Q&A icon, and our staff are ready to help take your questions. After hearing all 4 perspectives, we'll have a little question and answer period, followed by a break. So with no further ado, please enjoy these videos.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Calandra Canjora, and I am a coordinator of client services with the Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia. Within my role, I am proud to deliver programs and services to persons with dementia and their partners in care. I have also had the opportunity to be involved in the planning of today's panel event, focused on hearing first voice perspectives of persons with dementia and learning about helpful resources in Nova Scotia. The goal of today's event is to shift the current dialogue and stigma around dementia and to facilitate living a meaningful life with dementia. In my role with the Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia, I've had the pleasure of working with Mallory Perry and a wonderful committee of persons with dementia, Marilyn Taylor, Preston Smith, Paula Snook, Faye Forbes, and Sandra Britton, to prepare for today's panel event. The development of this committee is in line with the Society's value of engagement, to inform, listen, and be attentive to those we work with, persons with dementia. The committee was involved in developing and planning the panel's program content, and some of our committee members are panel speakers today. The scope of the committee's work included attending meetings, defining the theme, as well as developing, designing, and approving the panel's program agenda, all from a dementia-friendly lens. You were shown a photo of the committee at the start of the morning, and it was meant to convey the energy of the committee, the warmth, laughter, and connections which resulted from our work together. I also just wanted to take the opportunity to let you know about our programs and services. The Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia offers many programs and services to persons living with dementia and to their partners in care. During today's panel, you will hear the panelists refer to some of our programs, and we are pleased that our programs have been adapted to a virtual delivery. One of our programs includes Virtual Artful Afternoon, a partnership program between the Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia and the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. This is a socially engaging program combining art making and education to persons with dementia and their partners in care. The atmosphere of this program is open and accepting. No prior experience with art is required to attend. Another virtual program we offer is called Shaping the Journey, a program for persons with early stage dementia and their partners in care to access education and support from an Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia staff member and a psychologist from Nova Scotia Health, Jennifer Haley, in Halifax. This program has also been offered in other regions of the province in the past, and we plan to do so again in the future. Most importantly, no matter where you live, or if you don't yet feel comfortable or ready for group programming, the Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia offers the free confidential info line service, providing information, support, and education to persons living with dementia as well as their care partners. We don't expect you to remember all of the program names today. We're happy to find a program or educational opportunity that best fits your needs. So please feel free to call our info line. We will now show you a slide with our info line number as well as a list of our current program offerings.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sandra Britton. I'd like to tell you a bit of the path of my journey from before I was officially diagnosed with early onset Lewy body dementia with Parkinson's in late 2012. Everyone's journey is different with dementia. There is no clear cookie-cutter path to follow, but there are similarities. There are changes and losses with this diagnosis of dementia, but there are also learnings and gains. It took 3 years for me to become, officially diagnosed. I was 51 when I first started going to the memory clinic. The system was really not set up for younger persons with dementia. I kept passing the memory test, even though I knew that something was wrong. I was having a hard time remembering things that I had done, and my focus and concentration became impacted. I was forgetting how to do familiar tasks in my job as an accountant, such as drawing blanks with tax and accounting laws that I once knew well. It was taking me longer to complete projects for them. I even started forgetting how to get to my clients' offices. I was lucky as my GP kept sending me back to the memory clinic over and over again. Although it may be difficult to hear the doctors diagnose you with dementia, but connecting with the supports and resources to help you is the best thing that you can do in the long run. When I was diagnosed with dementia, I experienced several emotions in what seemed an instant but went on forever, and lots of denial. Even though I expected this diagnosis, I still wished it was a physical health condition that could be fixed. My daughter Laura and I talked a little in the car about the next stages, but to be honest, I was still in shock from the diagnosis. I basically went into hibernation for a year. I would take my dog Jake for a walk and go back inside my house. That first year for me, well, it was awful and quite hard for me to accept the diagnosis. I became very quiet and introverted with little confidence in myself. It was my hermit year, and I started to decline faster. I was not interested in engaging with others or any activities that I had loved. Laura had heard what the doctors had said about the kind of positive supportive steps I could be taking, and she did not see me acting on them. So she got me back to my GP, who referred us to the Alzheimer'S Society. This is when everything changed for me. Had it not been for my children, Laura and Derek, being a part of my care team throughout this journey, along with my doctor, who has always been supportive, and the Alzheimer'S Society, who got me into the program, I believe I would not be where I am today and who I am today, if not for this. At first, I was afraid and unsure of what to expect from these programs. This referral led us to the First Link program at the Alzheimer'S Society. Through this program, I received a call from Wenda McDonald. Wenda provided me with one-on-one support and offered me programs that fit where I was in my stage of this disease. Through this introduction, I first met supportive persons like Wenda, Jennifer, Linda, and eventually the staff of the Alzheimer'S Society. Laura and I started with Shaping the Journey, an educational program for persons with dementia and their partners in care to learn about brain changes caused by our dementia. We had a take-apart model of the brain, whom we called Pat. We were shown where our particular dementia was located within our brain. This was a safe environment where we could talk openly about what was going on with us. Our partners in care were also provided with support and education. Shaping the Journey was my first step back into the real world. The Alzheimer'S Society had given me hope that I could still have a good life and live well with my dementia. This program helped me bring me out of my hermit shell year. My second step was joining a Coffin conversation group put on by the Society in conjunction with the Nova Scotia Health Authority. Again, it was in a safe environment. In our small group, there were only persons with different types of dementia and 2 moderators. Among other topics, we talked about what was going on with our dementia, our concerns. Some of the things we asked each other was what each of us had found helpful in different situations. At times, there were tears if we were overwhelmed, but most times there was a lot of laughter as we could say what we wanted without fear of judgment, looks of derision, or raised eyebrows. I have been going to these programs for the past 8+ years. Because of COVID, all in-person support groups are now done online, including the one I currently attend. A social group called Connections Hub, offered by the Society, which is a great support for me. I am thankful to keep getting invited back to this group. I would be devastated if our support group was no longer available to myself and others with the disease of dementia. I'd miss the camaraderie and the fellowship we have together. I have felt very safe in all of the programs I have been in. I know whatever I say, and sometimes what I say is probably silly, or comes out just plain wrong. The other group members will laugh with me and nod at me as they understand what I am going through. I feel very good about the connections I have made with the Alzheimer'S Society. I know I'm not alone, and that when I need help, I can just call the confidential info line service and someone will listen. I find it very helpful to touch base with my support person, Linda, on the info line. It is very easy speaking with Linda and share what is going on with me, any concerns that I have, and to seek support when I need it. In addition to providing continued telephone support, InfoLine staff can also send you information on dementia and share strategies and resources to assist you to live well. Their programs are all in safe environments, and you are with others who have dementia. These programs help me to gain back my confidence being in the outside world. If you decide to call the info line for support or join one of their groups, I hope you too will find it helpful and supportive. In closing, I would like to say that I am a very different person than I was when I was first diagnosed and hid from the world. The supports I received have made me realize that I am still a person, I am still valuable in the community, and that I still have rights and a voice. By having access to these programs, such as Shaping the Journey, Artful Afternoon, and InfoLine, I have been able to access much needed support, particularly during this pandemic. The journey with dementia does not always run smoothly, but we are defined by more than our disease, and connected with various supports has reinforced this for me to continue living well, especially for me getting back to the outside world of hiking, kayaking, and canoeing again with my friends. I really enjoy being an advocate for the Alzheimer's Society. I want to thank you for listening to me today, and I hope that you enjoyed the rest of today's event. Goodbye for now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Paula, and today I want to share my journey to my love of art after my Alzheimer's diagnosis. Before I was diagnosed, I was a pharmacy manager, and my life was consumed with my work. After my diagnosis, I was not sure what I was going to do with my time. I knew I was creative, but I had not discovered my true enjoyment of both viewing and creating art. I honestly was on the fence about art. I was not sure if it was something I would like. However, I decided to sign up for a program for Alzheimer's patients at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia called Art and Tea Tuesdays. At these meetings, I was given the chance to tour the art gallery, learning information on the artists and art that was on display. I found myself excited to attend these meetings, learning about art. I also got to make connections with others and share what I learned about the art with my niece. This program made me more open to art experiences and introduced me to another art-based program for those with dementia. Now that I found my love of admiring art, I opened myself to more art-based opportunities. I went to New York and on my trip decided to go to the Met, an activity that I would not have tried before my diagnosis. I truly enjoyed my experience at the Met, and I decided to sign up to attend the Artful afternoon program. I found many benefits to my life through this program. Once again, I got to make connections with others, and I got to spend more time with my niece, who also loves art. This program exposed me to different mediums of art, all of which I found interesting. I particularly enjoyed painting. I love that the program also took the group on tours of the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, getting to see different exhibitions such as the Maud Lewis one. Something I found amazing about the program is how accessible it is. There is no need to be an artist to participate. I found art to be a wonderful outlet and learned anyone can make art. The Artful Afternoon program has currently been transitioned to virtual. However, the program is still amazing. With the thoughtfully constructed art kits, I have the freedom to create and express myself through art projects at home. I found this to be even more accessible as I can do art at my own pace. I still get to try a variety of new art mediums, which I really enjoy. I also love that we can view the art in the gallery virtually, as I enjoy admiring art as well. I also do art at home independently of the Artful Afternoon program. I like to use a range of art mediums in my own artworks. I make creative wrapping paper for birthdays and holidays such as Christmas. I love to use paper and 3D objects such as fake fur, buttons, and wooden shapes to make designs. I also make children's books for my grandchildren with help from my niece. So far, I have made 5 books. I paint landscapes to be the backgrounds and then draw, cut out, and color the characters. I love to create scenes of local landscapes such as Peggy's Cove. I take inspirations from all around me and love to include activities that I have done with my grandchildren in the artwork I create.
Hi, my name is Janine and I'm Paula's niece. I'm so happy that Aunt Paula has discovered her love of art. I enjoy attending the Artful Afternoon program with her and help put together the books that she makes. I was so excited to learn that there was a program that I could join her in and that we both had a common liking for art. Having a fun hobby to look forward to after a life-changing diagnosis is so important, and I was very glad that Aunt Paula could do art at home and that she found art programs that are perfect for those new to art and that I can join her in too.
Art has completely changed my life. I am so happy to have found something that gives me a sense of accomplishment with each piece I create, allows me to make connections with others, and that most importantly brings me joy.
Wonderful. What a great start to the morning. Thanks. We now are going to have Faye joining us live for this next session, and she's going to be talking to us about how she has found joy. So a nice uplifting talk to end the morning. So welcome, Faye.
Good morning.
Morning. I'll leave you have it.
There are so many faces of dementia. Each case is so individual. It affects everyone in your life. It's a bombshell dropped into the living, and that's what happened with me. I felt like my life exploded into 1,000 pieces, and none of them left me feeling great about myself or my future. Do you feel that way too? This is my story as I learned to find joy in each day. My name is Faye. I am a mother and a grandmother. I raised my 3 girls as a single parent who always juggled 4 active schedules, and multitasking was second nature. I wore many hats, and slowly things began to change. I had no initiative. I was zoned out, completely out of character. I hid it from my family. I hid it from myself. I was always outgoing, and now I found myself withdrawing from family and friends. My life was slowly unraveling. My concentration disappeared. It was impossible to follow conversations, and I couldn't process all that was happening around me. It was like there was a sandstorm in my head, and I could not see my way through. This is a very brief background. After several years of doctors and tests, I sat in the neurologist's office. Early onset Alzheimer'S is what he said. Well, that was a shock, a jolt of lightning, and it was something that was never mentioned, something I never dreamt of. He continued, 5 years before long-term care. Oh, that was a harsh dose of reality. It was hard to wrap my understanding around his words, but medication helped to clear some of the fog that was swirling around in my head. The fear of the unknowing was quickly overshadowed by apathy and indifference. Why bother? My fate is set. At the same time, a sense of relief washed over me, a sudden wave of peace and serenity. All would be okay, not the same, but okay. And my determination and faith kicked in. As a family, we began to educate ourselves. A call to First Link gave us direction, support, and encouragement. Actually, one of the first things we did was attend this forum. And for me, it was an eye-opener to see and hear others who are traveling the same journey gave me hope that there's still good quality left in living. Often people with dementia describe how family members assume that the diagnosis immediately renders them dependent and incapable, and may seek to overtake decision-making. Stigmas about dementia can build barrier walls. Stigmas rob us of living life to its fullest. My girls were strong and understanding. Now we could prepare for the rest of my life, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that makes all the difference. Yes, it scares me. Yes, moments of sadness and fear. What's going to happen? When? I feel that Alzheimer's has robbed not only me, but my family too. So now I am fighting. I'm giving it my all and enjoying the good things that I have. Dementia is a time of change and reflection. I'm not the same person I once was. It's the goodbye to the life I knew and hello to the one I now embrace. You walk away from all the drama. You surround yourself with people who make you laugh. Forget the bad and focus on the good. Love the people that treat you right. Life is too short to be anything but happy. Falling down is part of life, but getting back up is living. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. Today is God's gift, and that's why we call it the present. Celebrate it." So I celebrate my world. I love the life I live, and I live the life I love. And I don't fear what can happen. I want to decide for myself about my life. So I set self goals. It's important to begin each day with a full cup, to honor my passion, make a contribution, and most importantly, express gratitude. Let my life serve as an inspiration to me and to others. So how do I do this? Well, I had to develop a can-do spirit and a positive mindset. And that happened through the encouragement of the Alzheimer's Society support groups and being active in a social life. I try to do something productive each day and not feel guilty when that does not happen. Sometimes it takes days to finish because I do not tax my body or my brain, but there is a sense of accomplishment. I take time for me each day as well. I use lists like I never did before and timers as reminders, Post-it notes and labels, a date book where I write everything down. I rely on old habits and reminder notes. And best of all, routine, 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 because I do things differently now, one small thing at a time. I remember to take my medication. I eat, or I try to eat healthy, but I love greasy, spicy fried food. Physical exercise, which in my book is a dirty word, but I can handle a short walk or gardening, and swimming are some of my favorites. I exercise my brain with puzzles of all sorts, and a good night's sleep and rest when you're tired. Your brain is working twice as hard as it did before, just to keep things out of the fog. And this actually tires you physically. So when I'm tired, my brain tires. It shuts off. What I see, I hear, I sense, bounces off before I even begin to process it. I give myself me days to rest or just veg, and I don't feel guilty about this. And now I am asking for help, relying on others, and letting go of some of my independence is really difficult. But my spirituality can bring delight in every day. It might be a faith, or enjoying nature or music, immersion in art, a loving community, service to others, the experiences that let us feel connected to something larger than ourselves. Spirituality is something that makes your heart sing and puts a smile on your face. So be content in the moment. I'm living today as if it were my last. I'm savoring each moment, and I tend to make the most out of, appreciate everything that each new dawn brings. All the events, all the encounters, all the relationships. I'm more focused on what's important to me. If it's worth seeing and listening or doing, I want to see it, listen, or do it now. Each day, each hour, each minute is special. Live for today, for tomorrow is promised to no one. But what hasn't changed is that I still have the same feelings and emotions as before. I just find it harder to communicate those. So to see a smile of understanding sends a feeling of safety and trust so that I can just be who I am now. Dementia defines only one aspect of a person's humanness. I have Alzheimer's, but it doesn't have me. My life is good in spite of Alzheimer's. I fill it with people I care about and things I love to do. A warm glow, an inner peace fills me. I'm content and happy and joyous again. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Faye, for your can-do spirit, your sense of humor, and as always, inspirational words. So we're now going to invite all of our panelists for a question and answer period. And while they get live, I'm just going to take a peek at the questions from the audience. We're still inviting those along at any time. Good morning, Janine. Hi, Calandra.
Morning.
Hi, Paula.
Morning.
Good to see you all pop up. Our Brady Bunch is getting situated. There's Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
I like
guys all
to call
doing?
us the Brady Bunch.
That moment as we all pop up. Thanks so much for joining us live this morning. Much appreciated. I'm just going to take a look at some of the questions that have come in from the audience. The first one is probably the most common one we get on our info line. So I'll be passing it over to Calandra. The question is, what is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? Are they the same thing?
Thanks, Sasha. And we do get that question often on our info line service as well in our role providing education. And Alzheimer's is a form of dementia, and there are many different types of dementia. So I would suggest if you're looking for some education around types of dementia, what the difference is between Alzheimer's and another type of dementia, that you phone our info line. So if you didn't catch that number when it was first shown, you will be shown the 1-800 number at the end.
Yeah, and they can give you all kinds of tailored answers and support. Thank you, Calandra. Fantastic. This next question's for Sandra. The person said, thanks so much for sharing your story. And they were curious about how you've adjusted to doing programs online, so virtual programs. So maybe you could say a few words about that.
Sure, Sasha.
Thank you.
We had built up a great rapport from our in-person conversation and coffee groups. And so we were missing it, and we were talking within each other, and we went to the staff at the Alzheimer'S and asked them to continue to do this online, as we still found it very helpful to us to be able to talk to each other, relate to each other, and keep up with what was going on with each other in our world.
Fantastic, thank you. Not quite the same as in person, but we are so glad we still get the chance to connect. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Another question we have, someone's curious for you, Paula. They say they've never started or never done any art, and they're curious, where to begin, or was it intimidating? Do you have any tips?
Just pick a medium that you enjoy. Find one that you like. If you like to work with paint or clay or whatever you prefer to work with. Start small. Doesn't have to be a big, huge project. Just start really small. Pick something that you like. If you don't like realism, try abstract, anything. Play with color, and don't be hard on yourself. Don't feel pressured. What you may like as art, someone may not like as art. Everybody has a different opinion on what is art.
Right. Oh, fantastic. Hopefully that inspires a few folks in the audience. I saw Janine nodding quite a bit. Anything you want to add to your aunt's perspective?
Yeah, just that you really have to be easygoing on yourself and just let yourself experience the art. It's really just about being creative and trying to express yourself in different ways.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so nice that you guys can partner and do the program together. Someone has a bigger picture question for Faye, likely because of her inspirational words. The question is, how can I help my mom live her best life possible? So do you have any kind of words of inspiration for someone thinking big picture or planning for themselves?
Oh, that is a big question.
I know, sorry.
But that's okay. Let your mom be herself. That's the biggest thing. She's still the same person and still has the same ideals and the same hopes and wishes as she did before. Support those and encourage her with that. Don't put your ideas over top of hers. She still has the right to make decisions. You can help her with that, but let her personality and her psyche come through.
Fantastic. Yeah, to help her live with dignity and in the way that she wants. That's really helpful.
Exactly.
And even like you say, filling your cup every day and staying positive, I think is so big too. One theme we hear from all of you is kind of taking it one day at a time and staying positive.
Yeah.
It is. And it's, if you're having a bad day, we all have bad days, just let it be. Don't try and force yourself or make yourself feel guilty about it.
Well said. Yeah, bad days will happen. And, like you say, giving yourself time, being patient with yourself is so important. I have a question about one of our programs. Calandra, someone wants to know a little bit more about Coffee and Conversation. Maybe you could tell us about it and how people might be able to register or learn more.
Happy to. So Coffee and Conversation we're currently in the midst of offering a pilot program virtually. So it's a program that's focused on, support for persons with dementia to receive peer support from an Alzheimer'S Society of Nova Scotia staff member and a Nova Scotia health psychologist. So while we're in the midst of offering a pilot program, and it's in the morning on a weekday. So with any of our programs, definitely call our info line to find out more about getting registered.
Perfect. Thanks, Calandra. Yeah, we have a long service menu. So after a chat on InfoLine, we could have all kinds of recommendations for anyone that gives us a call, that program and many others. Another question we have, and this could be for anyone with lived experience who might want to weigh in. Someone said, I forget people's names sometimes and this embarrasses me. Are there any strategies that you'd suggest? I don't know if anyone on our panel has experienced that. Any tips for forgetting names or any strategies around it?
Well, that happens to me all the time.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I try and steer the conversation to get them to give me a clue about where we met without asking. Yeah. Just for lack of embarrassment for me. And sometimes I'm just flat out saying, you know, you look so familiar, but I can't remember your name.
Good for you. Yeah.
So it takes a while to get those strategies built up, and yeah, every meeting is a little bit different, but you know, like, I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you doing? Yeah. You know, might give an insight to their family or where they're living or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good strategy, kind of nudging them to give you a little bit more to go on.
Yeah.
Or just being honest. If it's a conversation you feel comfortable being honest and asking them to jog your memory a little.
Yeah.
Sandra, Paula, any tips that came to mind on your front, or do they line up with your experience?
Sometimes just don't have a conversation where you have to say their name. Oh, just nice. Keep the conversation broad. Like, and then that way sometimes they'll say, oh, you know, nice to see you, and then just say, oh yes, nice to see you too.
You just maintain the pleasantries. Yeah, no, that's a good strategy too. If you don't feel like you'll be on the spot, you may as well not put yourself in that position.
Exactly, because the harder you're trying to think of it, the worse it is.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Hard to make small talk when you're mad at yourself or frustrated that you can't find their name. Yeah, that's a really good point,
yes.
Paula.
I'm the same way. I feel if it's a conversation where I don't think I'm going to have to actually say a name or say a member of their family name, I will go with just the flow of the conversation. But if they come out with leading questions about something that you might have been done together, I will just say, you know, I'm having a really bad day with names. Could you tell me yours again?
Good for you. Yeah.
And just let it go at that, and just hope that they will accept that if they didn't know that I have dementia.
That's really well said, Sandra, and brave. Good for you to be able to assert that, to get that direction. Also, for any folks listening today, just hearing these examples, I hope for family members or healthcare providers, also just reintroducing yourself at any point is not harmful, is dementia friendly, and it might save a blunder or a little bit of worry or stress. Just looking at any other questions that have come through. One for Kalendra about another program. What about education series? Someone said, is the Family Caregiver Education Series available at this time during COVID?
It is. We're so pleased, you know, that we're able to offer programs virtually now, and that includes our Family Caregiver Education Series. So regardless of where you are in Nova Scotia, calling our info line is the best way to find out about registration.
Thank you. That's our one-stop shop. You've heard a few times this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question is for anyone with lived experience. Someone said, I was recently diagnosed. Do you have any advice on how I can talk to my family or friends about it? I know that's a tough one, but if anyone wants to shed light on their experience or any suggestions they might have in disclosing a diagnosis.
Well, for me, I was open and honest. I expressed my fears, my shock. I didn't at that point have hope for the future. And I asked if they would come with me so that we could all be educated together. And they were my girls were 100% supportive in that they would do anything to help me. Nice. So we all worked on it together. Now, that's not always the case, but you can find a friend, not just a family member, but just a close friend. I have a really close friend that walks with me every day, walks this journey with me every day, although she doesn't have dementia.
Right.
And, you know, I love her to death and appreciate her. So yeah, that's, for me, that was the big thing, to be open and honest, and not to say I'm super brave and I'm super mom or super girl or whatever, you know, say, yeah, I'm scared.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing what it was like being honest. And like you say, nice to have a friend too that, you know, figuratively and literally walks with you through this journey. So yeah, it does take courage to share that. So certainly. Paul and Sandra, did you have any experiences from when you shared your diagnosis with either family or friends?
Yes, I shared with my family first, with my son and my daughter, and they were very supportive. Laura kept going to the meetings with me. My son would call me from away, and so we got to talk about it. But I didn't go out to further areas of my family at first until I felt more comfortable about it. And that took me a while. And, you know, some people are able to do that right away, but it took me a while. I come from a big family, so I would have to say it 9 more times, and then there'd be the aunts and the uncles and everything like that. But I slowly did it. And my friends, I found that actually harder. I was worried about what they would think of me. What, you know, would they change? Would they, you know, stop wanting to be a friend? And that does happen. But you'll know your true friends after you've told them, and they still stay with you and help you through your journey. So I was very happy that did happen for ones that I cared about most.
Thank you for sharing that, Sandra. A lot of layers there. I'm glad you mentioned that. For some folks with a bigger family, you know, if you have a really big family tree, that's a lot of branches to share that personal news. So maybe starting closer to home, it sounds like that was helpful for you. And yes, like you say, nice to know true friends that are able to be with you after sharing that news. Paula, I see you nodding. Was there anything you'd add?
Yeah, just like take your time. When you're ready, like let them know when you are ready to share.
Yeah. So perhaps not feeling pressured by people. It's a lot of processing after a diagnosis. So all of you shared that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing it in your own time, doing a little bit of processing on your own, and maybe with those nearest and dearest. Exactly. Some really helpful tips. Yeah. Thanks each of you for sharing. I'm going to take another last look, see if any questions are pouring in. Nice that we have so many people connected this morning, and people beyond Halifax, which is fun too. Someone's curious. This is a question for Calandra. I've been recently diagnosed with dementia. What are some things I can do to keep my brain healthy? Any tips on that?
That's a really good question. You know, we know that brain health, there are things that you certainly can do to keep your brain healthy. You know, dietary diet is important. So things like, you know, fruit, vegetable intake, you know, eating grains, limiting salts, physical activity. So that could be anything, something that you enjoy. You know, we heard Faye talk about that this morning, which she enjoys for her own physical activity, and it, you know, to whether it's a walk, gardening, just promoting those physical ways of staying active. And we know social connection is so important as well to brain health. So yeah, right now, if you're able to connect virtually by phone, you know, whatever is safe in these times to maintain that connection, it is really important. And lastly, some of the other things that are important to promoting brain health is, you know, things like getting your hearing checked, making sure your blood pressure stays within the normal range. So.
Fantastic. So looking at your overall health makes a difference for brain health. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Fantastic. Okay, well, it looks like that's all the questions we have, but I do want, while you are all on the line, to say that our inbox is flooded with comments, thanking you all for sharing your personal stories, saying how inspirational you were. So yeah, I've been looking through, it's fantastic to see the positive feedback we got. So thanks each of you for being brave and sharing your stories and also being live this morning for questions. Thank you.
No, thank you, people at the Alzheimer's Society, because we are where we are because of the work that you do.
Thank you, Faye. That's what we're here for. Thanks to each of you again for sharing today. Much appreciated. I know it means the world. I can see proof of it. It means the world to everyone connecting today. So thank you. All right. We'll disconnect right before going to a quick break. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye, Sandra. Thanks, Janine. Bye, Paula.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful. So thanks, everyone, for enjoying those responses from our panelists, and thanks for sending all of those questions along. We're now going to do a quick 10-minute stretch break, and we're going to have some musical talents by Paige Morrissey from Heart Sparks Music Therapy. Please enjoy.
You've gotta give a little, take a little, let your poor heart break a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of love.
Wonderful, welcome back. Hope you had a nice stretch break. We will now be hearing from Catherine Ann Murray. She's an occupational therapist from Nova Scotia Health, and this session will be interview style, like a Q&A with our very own Mallory Perry. Catherine Ann will be speaking about provincial resources that might be helpful and how to live well within your own space. Sadly, she will not be available for questions today, but we'll still have a moment of reflection after her talk for you to jot down any notes. So with no further ado, enjoy Catherine Ann Murray.
Good morning, everyone. This morning, I will be asking Catherine Ann questions that we hope will be helpful to those wanting to know about the role of occupational therapists and how they help people living with dementia in their homes. We will hear how one can request an at-home visit by an occupational therapist, various community resources that a person may tap into, and how to access these resources. So Catherine Ann, can you briefly tell us what an occupational therapist does, and then go into more detail about the specific role an OT may have in helping persons living with dementia and their care partners?
Sure, thanks, Mallory. So an occupational therapist is a healthcare professional that works with people and their care partners to problem solve any difficulties that they're having in their day-to-day functioning or their day-to-day activities due to changing abilities that they may have. So oftentimes, if we look at, so occupational therapists will look at how to modify either the environment that the person is living within or interacting within, or the task that they're doing. So we look at ways to modify the environment or the task in order to enhance or optimize the person's abilities or independence to be able to live a life or continue with their daily activities as independently as possible, despite having a disability or despite having changing abilities over time. So a basic example of someone living with dementia is that if they start to forget to take their pills or start to take their medications. So this is a task that often people of a certain age are doing at least on a daily basis, or sometimes they're taking meds up to 4 times a day. So if the difficulty is remembering to take the meds, then we look at ways to simplify the task. So we may consider using a dosette or blister pack. So if the person currently is organizing their pills via just regular vials and they're scattered in a basket, that may not be the best system to use for them to be independent. So maybe a dosette or maybe a blister pack could be used to organize their meds and help them remember to take them. Sometimes a medication dispenser can help. If modifying that environment or that task isn't quite enough, then maybe we'll introduce a person to be there, like a care partner or a VON nurse through continuing care, to provide the reminder to the person or give the person their medications. And sometimes that's only needed maybe once a week just to check on the dosette to make sure they're taking them okay. Sometimes that's needed daily. It depends again on the ability of the person and their ability to remember to take their meds. Another good strategy too is sometimes people are on medication or taking medications 3 times a day. Maybe that could be simplified by asking the family doctor by having them take them maybe 1 or 2 times a day. So that's just one sort of functional example of how you can assess any given task and try to match performing the task with the cognitive and physical abilities of the person, so that you can allow them to be as independent as possible with a least restrictive approach. We always want to try to work with people without overhelping or without being too restrictive on their autonomy and their freedoms, just even though they are living with dementia. I'm just looking at my notes here so I get all the points. So I typically explain my role in terms of assessing and mitigating risks or functional risks for people living with dementia and involving their care partners. So that could, there could be any given risk in the run of a day for people living with dementia. So that could include, being able to make meals, remembering to turn the burner off. And so we're looking at the risk of forgetting to turn the burner off, or the risk of not eating or forgetting to eat. The risks could include community outings, and is the person going to be able to orient home again? you know, we don't want to restrict that person from not going out of their house at all. Maybe that's way too restrictive, but we want to look at the risks and try to mitigate them so they can still live in a positive way with dementia. And all those functional risks can come up differently across the different stages of dementia. So as we know, in earlier stages, the functional tasks that they might have more difficulty with are remembering to take the meds, making meals, maybe getting groceries, or those day-to-day financial interactions that they're having in the community. So the other big sort of risk, or the thing that we like to focus on in a comprehensive approach in our assessment and interactions with people living with dementia is identifying caregiver or care partner stress. So ultimately, if I have dementia, if I'm living with dementia, the people in my life or the care partners that I have are going to be the ones that are going to end up supporting me the most. So an occupational therapist can help the caregiver learn more about dementia, understand the disease better, how to use positive approaches to care, so that we're really optimizing that every interaction that we have with someone living with dementia to make it as pleasant as possible, so that they're most understood despite having this disease. So I have another example there. So if we take the meal prep for an example, so if we break that down into, is the person having difficulty with meal prep from a physical perspective, or is it from a cognitive perspective, or both? So then, OTs might take a look at, how do you modify the kitchen? How do we make sure everything is within waist to shoulder height so that it's within easy reach? Or, if the person is forgetting where items are, maybe we label drawers and cupboards. Maybe we take off cupboard doors so that most frequently used items are within view. Again, if that's not enough, then maybe we introduce pre-made meals that maybe they're not able to use the stove any longer, but they can use the microwave. Or maybe we introduce assistive technology where they can still use the stove, but if they forget to turn the burner off, it'll automatically shut off after any given time. And we'll talk a little more about assistive technology later.
That's great. So that's a really great example. Looks like there's a lot of adaptations that can be put into place just to help support someone at home. You mentioned about assistive technology. Could you give us a few examples of how assistive technology can help support people living with dementia and their caregivers at home?
Sure. So a lot of people have heard of sort of a falls alert or a personal medical alert system. So that's sort of the most common assistive technology that we think of when working with older adults or when working with people living with dementia. So again, if we know that the risk of having a fall, or even the risk of being able to problem solve through an emergency situation might be there. So we offer, or that's a strategy or an adaptive aid that can be put in place, not to prevent falls, right? Because the fall could still happen, but it can help prevent a long lie. So it can help lower the risk of injury and lower the risk of the severity of the injury. So having that alert system, you either wear it around your neck or your wrist. There's two different types. There's one that the person has to be able to press the button if they need help, or there's one that can detect a fall and go through sort of an emergency response system. So there's a couple of different brands on the market, but they are quite common, and they are set up with a monthly fee. So that's something that, from the perspective of the person living with dementia, they've got a safeguard that they wear, and they might feel more confident being alone if they know they have that safeguard. From the perspective of the care partner, they're often more reassured knowing this person has an automatic fall detector and that they'll get a call quite quickly if anything did happen to the person living with dementia. So that's the most common one that we see. And again, that one's used if we know the person living with dementia is spending a lot of time home alone, and that the risk for falls is there. The other one that we educate about is there's a medication dispenser. So there's a couple of different dispensers that can be used to, again, simplify the task of providing medications. So it's a machinery, it's a small piece of, it's like a gadget that you would, probably a care partner would fill it up with the doses of medications. And I think it can fill up to about a month's worth of daily medications, but maybe just a couple weeks of maybe up to 2 or 3 times a day. And it gives an audio alert and a visual alert. So, you know, it has a few assumptions about the capabilities of the person living with dementia. You know, the person has to understand that beeping and that the visual alert is telling them to walk over to the machine, take the medications out of it and take the meds. For some people, it works great. For some people, it's not quite enough to be reliable. But again, it's an option. Another assistive technology we often talk about is a stove sensor. So again, this is something that can still allow people living with dementia to continue to cook, continue to use their stovetop as they normally would and want to. But if there is a history or if there's evidence or if there's concern that the burners are going to be left on, then this stove sensor can be installed on the stove. Now, it does require a certain type of stove, so there's some caveats to the technology, but you can pre-program a certain time on it so that if the motion sensor doesn't pick up any movement within that area of the kitchen after a certain amount of time, the stove will automatically shut off. So there's some technology out there that will do that for the person. And again, if you look at it from the perspective of the person living with dementia, to them, they've got their autonomy, they've got their sort of their right to kind of make their own meals and kind of live their life the way they like with this technology. And then from a perspective of the care partner, they're more reassured. And if they're in a sort of a more public situation or a public living situation in an apartment building, then you're lowering the risk for fire, for an emergency for the whole building. So that's a stove sensor. The other one that sometimes comes up and can be really helpful, and this one's more, I find this one interesting because there's more literature and evidence coming out, and I think more people are becoming more interested in this as more people living with dementia stay at home. You know, we're getting diagnosed early. Diagnosis is happening earlier now, which is great, and meaning more people can understand and get to know the disease better. So the other technology that we often talk about is GPS technology. So this is something that the person living with dementia, if they really value getting out into their community, you know, going for walks, going to the grocery store, you know, leaving their home for whatever reason they want, if they would like, they can bring a gadget with them that's also synced with a smartphone of a care partner, so that if anything happened, they could either press it or they would be able to be located quickly if they became disoriented or couldn't find their way home, or just had sort of maybe a stressful interaction in the community and just got a bit mixed up. So there are gadgets on the market now that have that GPS technology that can be easily synced with another person. So again, if you look at it, the perspective of the person living with dementia, it fulfills autonomy. It keeps them engaged in their community as they like, or however is meaningful to them. And then from a care partner perspective, you've got the reassurance that this person could be found quickly if needed. But you know, there's philosophical and ethical considerations with that as well. But I think the Alzheimer's Society has some more information about that to kind of think about it and think about it whether it's a fit for your situation.
Yes, absolutely. And I know the Alzheimer's Society can talk to people a little bit more about what gadgets are out there, but this is a great overview of some of the devices that are available to people. It's great to hear how that all of these exist and can help people maintain that independence. My next question for you, Catherine Ann, is how may a person access or connect to occupational therapy services?
Sure, there's a couple of different ways within our system here in Nova Scotia. So, the first way, if I jump right into private, there's private occupational therapists that you can access. Just a basic search on Google, occupational therapy Halifax would bring up a couple of private options. So if you have an insurance policy, like some people's insurance policies will cover occupational therapy, so it would be worth calling your insurance and finding out, does it cover occupational therapy partially or fully, and make your decision based on that, or hire private occupational therapy as you'd like. The other option is through the public healthcare system. So there's a few different ways through the public healthcare system. So a family doctor, or if you have a care coordinator through continuing care, they can make a referral to community occupational therapy. There are wait lists involved with that, but it is an option to go through a family doctor or care coordinator to make a referral, or really any other healthcare professional can make a referral to occupational therapy. There's a self-referral process as well, that if you would like to have a Nova Scotia Health occupational therapist come do a home visit, you can make a self-referral, and that's on the Nova Scotia Health website. And then I guess the third way, if you are involved with a geriatrician or was recently seen in what we call the memory clinic or the geriatric ambulatory care, that's where my OT services are through. So so you may get linked up with myself as an OT that way, but there are a few different avenues to link with occupational therapy in the community.
Great, thank you. What other resources should people be aware of in the community?
If I think of the most common ones that that we talk about or provide information on, I'd say, if adaptive aids like beginning to use a walker or bathroom equipment, or a basic, maybe a wheelchair that is more for later stages, but if we're looking at basic bathroom equipment or adaptive aids, the Red Cross Equipment Loan Service is an excellent resource. They do require healthcare professionals to fill out and fax a request for different equipment, but it is something that can be very helpful for people, especially if you don't want to put out the money yet to purchase these adaptive aids. You just want to try it for 3 months. The loan is typically 3 months. Then you can pick up some equipment from the Red Cross to try that. And the other one is the medical vendors. So medical vendors that sell or rent adaptive aids. And then if you contact the Alzheimer'S Society, they can give you specific stores that do sell those items. So those medical vendors are quite popular. The other one would be, again, the resources that have the personal medical alert system. So there's a couple different brand names there that you can look into for the fall alert or the fall detector. And then in terms of insurance, if you know you have insurance, don't be afraid to give them a call to ask, is occupational therapy covered? Is physiotherapy covered? Physiotherapy is a great service for people living with dementia. If your goal is to continue to, exercise and walk and maintain your balance, like we know from the literature that is the number one thing to help slow down the progression of dementia and to optimize quality of life. So physiotherapy can be a great healthcare professional to involve early in maintaining walking and balance and strength. So there's physiotherapy in the community as well. And then there's also private physiotherapy. And certainly if you're a veteran, with Veterans Affairs Canada, it doesn't hurt to give a call to Veterans Affairs Canada to find out if you're eligible for any services, including occupational therapy, physiotherapy, home care services, or private care services. And certainly if you already know that you're eligible for these things, then you can always ask, what more could I be eligible for? So certainly if you're a veteran, it'd be worth scoping that out and find out more information. And then Continuing Care Nova Scotia, some of you may already be very well aware of. So Continuing Care Nova Scotia is is a system that will eventually, or that's available to help with setting up home care in-home services, any sort of financial caregiver benefit that you might be eligible for, or eventually having a care coordinator just to help you navigate, when do I need home care services, or how much will it cost? So Continuing Care Nova Scotia has a great website that you can poke around on as well. And then Caregivers Nova Scotia is another source of good education and information. And then, of course, the Alzheimer'S Society Nova Scotia as excellent programs and resources.
All right. Well, Catherine Ann, you've provided us with some great insight into the role of an occupational therapist. I feel like we've gained some knowledge of what resources are available within our province and where people can turn to tap into these resources. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and for answering all of these questions.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine Ann and Mallory. While we covered a lot of ground today, we know we have just scratched the surface. If you'd like more information about dementia, please reach out. We have a whole library of materials and online resources. We'll also be sending you an email with today's video recording and a few resources so that you have them handy. Our hope for today is that you feel inspired by what you learned, that you recognize you are not alone, and you have a better understanding of some resources that can help. For any questions we did not have the chance to answer today, I invite you to call our info line to speak to one of my kind, knowledgeable colleagues. If we don't have an answer for you, I promise you we'll find one. I just want to take a moment to thank a lot of folks who pivoted to make today possible. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to our Early Stage Forum Organizing Committee. Thanks to our thoughtful presenters, Calandra, Sandra, Paula and Janine, Faye and Catherine Ann. Thanks to Paige Morrissey for her musical talents. And last but certainly not least, none of this would be possible without our talented staff organizing all of the logistics for today. Our event leads, Mallory Perry and Calandra Canjora. Behind the scenes support, our producer and puppeteer, Beth House, safely masked with me here today. Claire Jimison, Connie Van Berkel, and Kaya Whittam. But before you go, a lot of energy went into planning today. We would love your feedback. A final poll will pop up on your screen with 3 questions. Be sure to scroll to answer them all. If you want to give us any comments on the day, you can send them to us in the Q&A function. We'll use them for next year's planning, and they are also appreciated. Once you've had a chance to share your feedback, you may sign off. Thanks once again to each and every one of you, wherever you are in the province or beyond Nova Scotia, for tuning in. Please stay connected and stay safe. Take care.